My name's Paulette Gigante. I'm a mom of two boys, first and foremost. I've been in the fitness industry probably since I was 24, 25. I started becoming a personal trainer around that time. And now I'm 44. So it's been quite a long career in that field. But I love it. It's kind of, I've went into competing, but I really love to help people. That's sort of where my passion is.
How did you get into fitness initially? You said you got into it when you're 24. What was there any kind of thing before that, any experience with sports or anything like that kind of pushed you in that direction?
Well, I feel like I've kind of always been interested in fitness. I was a cheerleader in high school, and that was my sport. I liked volleyball, but I never did it competitively or anything like that. But what really propelled me into the fitness industry was actually an eating disorder. And I was bulimic for years. And I knew that I really had to get healthy. And I basically threw myself into the gym and then started to build a real love for it. So that was the catalyst that kind of threw me there.
It seems like almost a very interesting way to get there, especially considering, that you kind of threw yourself in, like you said. Was there any outside influence in any regards, or was it kind of your own, was it your own mind that was just like clicked in and said, okay, I need to figure something out?
A lot of it stems from just not wanting anybody to know, to be honest. And I knew that if I didn't get help, I would end up in the hospital and then everyone would know. So that's the honest truth. Like, I knew that I needed to do this for myself, by myself. I am a believer in God, and that was a strong force in my life that also propelled me to get better, and relying on him throughout that whole experience really put me in the right direction.
So was that when you got in 24 years old, was that when you kind of made that choice to do that? Like, for that reason?
I started training in high school, like when I was even in a cheerleader. I did love training then, but I really pushed myself into it to do it more professionally when I was around 24.
So what pushed you in that competitive direction?
At some point, when I remember working at a gym and I was a trainer there, and everybody would tell me, like, you should totally compete. And they were talking about figure, because that was my first bout of competitive sports. I was a figure athlete. At first, I was afraid of it because I was like, here I am coming from this background where I'm critiquing my body all the time. And now I'm going to strip down into a bikini and go in front of a million people and have them critique my body. So there was a part of me that was like, oh, I don't know. But the desire to kind of see where I could take my body over, like, was more than my fear of standing in front of people and being criticized, basically. So I decided to go for it because I really wanted to find out where I could take my body and if I could do it. So that was my first, being a figure athlete was my first world in the competitive fitness arena.
It's almost, when you mention that, it's almost a fine line, and someone walks there between, improving your body for the sake of seeing what, for, even just throwing out the competitive reason, but for the sake of like bettering yourself versus, one way it's almost like you're doing it because you don't like yourself. And the other way you're doing it, because you love yourself and you want to just see how much better you can be.
Yeah, it was, it was more of the second thing.
Right.
It was more of that propelled me, because at that point I felt like I was definitely more stable as far as what I thought about myself. And I was in the place where I could handle, standing in front of a ton of people in a bikini, you know. And after that, I've always loved competing. And then I went into CrossFit, and then I went into powerlifting, but I guess we'll get into that.
So, the competition side of things, it definitely, I think, gives you a like a motivation, a reason to go to the gym. But what is there something else about competing? Because, to go from bodybuilding to CrossFit to powerlifting to, all these different, competition styles. What is it about competing that just pushes you and that attracts you to it?
I would say with every competition that comes, you never really know how much you're capable of doing until you're out on that competition floor. And, you have bad competition days and you have good competition days, but you really always hope for the best. And I don't know, like, I feel like between the adrenaline and the rush, it was just addicting to me. And that's like the honest truth. Like, I just loved it. I still do. I don't have any meets or anything coming up at the moment, but I'm looking to prepare for another powerlifting meet soon.
So you kind of mentioned it there, but like whenever you compete in any sport, whether it's a fitness sport or basketball, baseball, whatever, you can practice and do really well some days, not so well the other days. When it comes down to the competition, you have that one moment, that one game or that one whatever.
Yeah.
How does that kind of affect you? The fact that you can feel great going in, you can prepare well, and sometimes you just don't perform well. Does that affect you at all?
Yeah, it affects me. I've definitely been in competitions where I've missed lifts. You learn from it, and you kind of can't give up after that. It's like, if this is really what you want to do, and if your love for competing is enough, then you know that you need to take the good with the bad and keep pushing for the good. There's also a lot of just acceptance of those bad days, because they come, and it's life. And, even when I'm training, there are days where you think you're going to lift a certain amount and it doesn't happen. And there's so many variables that are involved. How much sleep you got, what your nutrition looked like for the past week, all of these things affect it. And it's hard to be 100% all the time. We're human. So sometimes the training gets affected from that.
When it comes to like fitness and everything, I think a weird epiphany or whatever you want to call it I had one day was, when you get a little bit older, when you get into maybe your 20s, college and after, probably it becomes fitness, becomes a different thing. But, when you're a kid, it's just you're hanging out, you're having fun, you're just moving your body around, but just playing around and doing that kind of thing it's such almost like a human behavior as a kid. And then when we become adults, we oftentimes stop moving our bodies for whatever reason. But as someone, as an adult who does move and get active and compete, is it almost weird like being around those people either in your family or friend group who aren't necessarily living an active lifestyle?
Yeah, a lot of times, to be honest, I respect everybody's choice to do whatever they want, but I personally, I can't understand not wanting to move. I just feel like your quality of life is so much better. And if you can just get out of, like, if it's a rut that you're in, I know like COVID has kept so many people inside and they've just stopped moving, and it's so sad. But if you can just get into the habit of movement of some sort, it's a game changer. And it's funny how it works, but like the more energy you put out there, I feel like the more energy you'll have to do more things. Your body adapts to it, and you only get better. So your quality of life gets better. And I just feel like I wish more people understood that. Like, a lot of things have improved, like your focus improves, you're almost forced to drink more water because your body needs more water. So there's a ton of things that happen because of an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
Also, when you're diligent in the gym, you don't want to necessarily sabotage the work you've done there. So you wind up eating better also, so there are just so many things that happen as a result of daily movement.
Yeah. I think it does something to you from the perspective of like overcoming challenges and when you're sore, you experience some pain. And when you're going through a tough workout, you're breathing heavy and it feels uncomfortable. I think that prepares you for life situations, better than just a sedentary lifestyle where you're always looking for the most comfort.
It's definitely true. Going back to what propelled me into the fitness industry and my eating disorder, I often considered that point a lot, where because training was really hard for me to do. I knew that I was pushing my body. I knew that I kept thinking, like, if I could overcome what I do at the gym, I could overcome what I'm doing at home, in terms of that addiction. And it helped me in that way. It helped me because you build more respect for yourself when you're consistent with something and when you're diligent with something and you know what you're capable of. So overcoming those challenges helped me overcome the challenges that I was dealing with in myself.
No, I think that's a good point too, is it does build a lot of confidence and a lot of mental strength and the empowerment side of it. And like knowing what you're capable of is really actually pretty cool. If you've never experienced like hitting a limit, I think that's just one of the most, powerful things, because
Yeah, truly.
where you stand in the world. Most people don't know where they stand. They go through life and they don't try to, that then it's just, I guess, goes back to that uncomfortable feeling and then knowing, hey, I can actually get better if I keep pushing myself. It really does. It creates so much confidence. And like I said before, I just don't know if you can get that from too much else in the world.
Yeah, it really does. It also creates a lot of patience because it takes a lot of patience, and it's one of the things that I really learned about my training is, it takes long to get better at something, but you have to really push yourself to be consistent to experience that. And it could be the smallest thing. It could be the smallest thing, but overcoming those little small things, you're teaching yourself that you can. And these are little experiences that you're building, and you constantly are teaching yourself, well, I already did that. I already did that. So I can do this. And I did that. So I can do this. And so the ball starts rolling, and
Right.
it becomes a little bit easier over time because you know what can happen as a result of it.
A lot of people don't give it that time, so they don't think it can happen for them. They give
Right.
it a week or a month or
Yeah.
6 months even, this kind of thing. And it's cool to see people like on Instagram when they post a 10-year transformation or a whatever 5-year, because
Yeah.
that's really how it works. It's not a how fast can I achieve this goal and go back to my old lifestyle, because it's a complete lifestyle change. And once you kind of
Yeah.
understand that, it's so much easier to just accept it and
Yeah.
do the hard things.
Yeah. And with that comes, you start to learn to give yourself grace too, because not every day is going to be a great day. In those 10-year challenges, there were a lot of days in those people's lives that were not easy. You see the transformation from one to the other, but there are all these bits and pieces in between them that, days that they didn't feel like training and they went, days that they didn't feel like training and they didn't go, like there's so much up and down. But at the end of the day, if you're as consistent as you can be, and you're really being honest with yourself, then you can really achieve a lot. There's a fine line between listening to your body and being lazy. You know what I mean?
That's
It's
tough.
like, it's tough. It's tough. And there's a lot of times where you just don't want to do it. And you can try and convince yourself, like, my body needs rest, but does your body really need rest? You know what I mean?
No,
So
yeah, that's hard.
I've I've totally been there. I've totally been there. But you just, it teaches you, you really have to be honest with yourself, because if you're not, then your progress will slow.
Yeah.
And you'll make changes, but they'll be very slow. So it depends what you want.
Yeah. That's so hard to know, like what that line is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it comes with experience,
Yeah.
and it is, but especially people, like you who are competing, and you want to be the best at a certain point in time, and you know that if you don't do this, it could mean it could be good if you don't do it, or it could be bad if you don't do it. And it's just, yeah, that's really challenging. And I know, like, there's different technology out there now that can help with that, but even at that, people with the mindset of like go go go, it's hard not to just keep going. And it also comes, like you said, with being honest with yourself, and just knowing that if you make the wrong decision one day, you'll learn from it and you'll grow.
For sure.
When it comes to your competing, though, you mentioned bodybuilding and CrossFit and powerlifting. Which one of those, and I'm sure there's different struggles and different high points and low points for each one, but which one have you found to be the most challenging for yourself?
Probably CrossFit, but also the most fun. And I don't know if it's because what's challenging for me is more fun for me, maybe, but I just enjoy the type of movement and the fast pace. And there's no doubt you're gonna sweat. Like sometimes when I'm doing powerlifting, it's great and I love lifting heavy, but it's slow, and so it's very, very different. And it's okay. Like to be honest, I didn't even want to do powerlifting. My boss, well, a friend who is now my boss, he convinced me to do a powerlifting meet. And I just thought, I was like, oh my God, boring. Don't want to do it. Like it's literally squat, deadlift, bench, because I was so used to CrossFit, which is like 1,000,001 movements, 1,000,001 variations, it's for time, it's EMOMs, it's just like so many different variables, and then all these different exercises. And I liked that. So going from that to powerlifting was very different. But when he told me that I could potentially qualify for nationals because my numbers were high, I didn't know at the time that they were as high as they needed to be, because I did train a little bit, but not much. Like they were pretty much there. I was like, hold up, I could qualify for nationals? Like, what do you mean? Seriously? And he was like, yeah, he's like, we should look and whatever. So a month later, I competed in powerlifting and I qualified for nationals.
That's crazy.
So yeah, like literally I had this conversation with him in September, and I think it was the end of October was my first meet. And I qualified for nationals, and I, it's funny, like I never expected there to be so much. Like there is a lot involved. I was squatting very differently. I didn't even know what a low bar squat was. Like it was all these different components to bench pressing and arching my back and driving through the floor and pulling my shoulders down and back. And it's just like so much that I never really took into consideration before, because it was just very like squat, deadlift, bench, But to answer your question, CrossFit is my love. I love that. I love just the fast pace of it.
Yeah, it seems like with CrossFit you would be, as far as like not dreading it, but as far as like thinking about it, you would almost think about it one time and then you're off to the races. With powerlifting, you're taking those breaks and you're thinking, oh my gosh, now I have to do this again. It's two kind of like, both are very challenging, but they're almost both very, very different in the way that the challenges are presented, and it from a mental aspect.
Definitely. You have time in powerlifting, but there's no time in, in CrossFit. It's like 3, 2, 1, go, and then there's all these other, like there's gymnastics and just so, but that being said, I do have a new love and respect for powerlifting now that I've been in it.
The mindset that any competitor has in the world of fitness, because it is so physical and mental, but just how much you have to use your body and just almost put it on the line. It seems like every single time you compete, really.
You really do. It's a learning experience for you. It's like, what am I going to do today? And you can do like your visualization exercises. And I do, like I try and think about, okay, I see myself lifting this. I see myself squatting that. It's a prayer, and it's confidence in yourself because you put in the work that day, and like you've really done the best you could. And it's just, accepting of that, and then going out and doing what you can.
What about your training? How has that kind of evolved over time?
To be honest, my training has incorporated much more rest than ever before. When I started doing the CrossFit, I was literally doing CrossFit every day. And it took a while for me to really start to understand that I need rest. And it's not something that I really like to admit, like as far as my age is concerned, because like I said, I'm 44 now, but even as far as my recovery, it's changed even in the last 2 years. Like I don't recover as much as I did before. So I'd say like the biggest thing in my training is just incorporating more rest and listening to my body.
A growing appreciation for that, a growing industry too. You see different technology, you see different recovery methods. Do you have anything that you do to recover kind of? Is there any ice baths or focusing more on sleep, anything that has helped you to kind of take your recovery to that next level?
Does prayer count?
I think it should.
Definitely should. I would probably just say like more sleep and just making sure that I'm staying hydrated. Those two things are, and then just, I'm not even trying to be funny, like really giving yourself that time, whether maybe it's that you meditate or something. I feel like something that makes you feel grounded is a big part of recovery.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's almost like taking a second to think about how you're actually feeling. And we're so go, and not just in fitness, but in every day. It's like, okay, I went to the gym. Now I got to go pick up the groceries or the kids, or got to go to work. You don't oftentimes think about how you're actually feeling. You're just doing so much.
Yeah.
Right there, you just mentioned sleep and water. A lot of people might think, oh, wow, can't believe this person who competes all the time doesn't do more. But I think what that goes to show is how important the basics are. Don't go out and get the massage gun or get the cold tub or get the new supplement before you have your bases covered, because those are going to be the most powerful things. Those are necessary for life, simply for living. We've been doing them since the dawn of time, just finding water sources and sleeping. So I think but we oftentimes don't do those things. We're replacing water with juices or soft drinks, or, not to say coffee's bad, but, we're with coffee or all these different things. And then we're replacing our sleep with, Netflix or our phone. So,
right.
We wonder why we're struggling, not just in the gym, but just simply with our health. We have to get back to what does our body need from a basic functioning standpoint, I think.
100%. 100%. It doesn't really have to be complicated. I think that if a lot of people just, the hydration thing alone, like I was just talking to somebody at the gym tonight about that. It's just amazing how much it can actually make your day better by just drinking water. And so, it improves your focus, it clears your skin, it gives you more energy. It enhances your mood. Like I feel so much better when I know that I'm drinking water. And it's such a simple thing. But again, it's a habit, and it needs to be built if it's not. So again, it requires consistency like anything else.
So When it comes to competing, what do you think is the most important or some of the most important characteristics when it comes to being successful in the world of competition?
It again goes back to consistency, but I feel like having patience with yourself, giving grace to yourself, because that's going to keep you consistent. If you're constantly getting upset and putting yourself down because of what you think you can't do, and these negative things are just constantly going into your head, it's going to affect your actions. And you won't be able to be consistent with your actions if you're feeding yourself all of this negativity. So it's giving yourself grace, it's being patient, it's understanding that there are good days and there are bad days, but also being honest. Again, it's all of that. It's all of, I feel like that has helped me mostly, even in the competitive arena. It's just to constantly keep that in my head.
How does that help you as a parent?
It gives me more patience. Because you need a lot of that. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're wonderful, but it definitely requires patience. But it's also, I know that they're watching me. I know that they are looking at me constantly doing something for my body, and I want to instill those habits in them without banging them over the head with it. So I want to know that I'm going to lead by example, and that's really how it's affected my parenting. I know that they're constantly watching me, and I want to provide a good example for them. Something that they can see and they can be proud of, but also that they can aspire to want to be like.
It's pretty cool because so many people it's like they'll have advice for someone, whether it's a kid or a friend or whatever, but then they don't follow that same advice themselves. So it's so hard to almost put that into, okay, well, I hear what you're saying, but how to actually do it. And having a role model, I think it's really cool because obviously such a high percentage of the youth today is struggling with their health, with obesity, diabetes, things like that, that
Yeah.
are almost 100% lifestyle related. And,
Yeah.
it just makes me think, what's driving that in a parent to not want to lead by example, and if their kid is kind of heading down that path, why not do something? And I think a big part of it is kind of our culture we're living in is more of it's not all bad, but I think the acceptance is also almost off the charts in a bad way. It's like, okay, we're just going to, we accept you as you are kind of thing, which if if you have something that you can't help, that's, I think that's fine to accept somebody as they are. But like, why are we accepting unhealthiness? Why are we accepting inactivity and future problems down the line? I think that's a big
Yeah.
kind of thing that's leading into all these issues.
100%. I agree with you. I think that there's too much acceptance of those things now, and it's affecting us in a very, very negative way. I feel like in order to be better, you really do. You have to go beyond the limits of what's comfortable for you. You just do. Growth, that's where growth happens. And if you're just always accepting, you never even know where that is. You never even can get there. So how do you grow? How do you grow if you'll be constantly in the same place? It's so detrimental to everything in life. To everything in life. Not just in fitness, and like your work and relationships. It's just like, if you don't push the boundaries a little bit, how do you know how far you can go? How are you going to get better? I don't understand that mindset. I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, I guess I don't know. I almost like look for the high of getting better. Like I love when I can see that, that I've worked so hard at something and I'm seeing a result. How does that not make you go on? Like, I want more of that. I want more. I honestly think there's too much acceptance.
You want to help somebody out, and especially as a trainer, as a coach, you want to help as many people as you can out. But even those who come to you, the majority of them will fall off the wagon. They will kind of go back to their old lifestyle. And we see that this time of year with resolutions and things like that. How do how do you handle that from the perspective of helping other people? How do you handle kind of that initial period of getting somebody into that lifestyle? What's your kind of best advice for that?
My best advice for that would be to not change so many things at once. Make small changes, things that are even easy to do in the beginning. If you change a little bit at a time, eventually that little bit is going to become a lot, and it's going to be enough to see results. And so I feel like sometimes, people throw out these like huge goals for themselves, and like, quite honestly, it's unrealistic. Like right in the beginning, like you're not going to lose 50 pounds in a month. That's just not a realistic goal, especially if you weren't doing anything to do that before. Like there's a lot that needs to be changed. So I feel like you need to think about, okay, let's change a couple of things. And that's how I proceed with my clients, is that I learn about what they normally do, and then I implement small changes at a time. And when they can be consistent with those changes, we implement more changes. And eventually, so it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like something that they can't do. It doesn't feel like something that they're going to like throw their hands up, because they're just little changes at a time.
I think that's where the breakthrough really does come, because it's the lifestyle that got you there. You got to change that to get somewhere else.
Exactly.
The battle is 99% mental.
I get the most reactions when I post videos that show me failing and show me, dealing with things that people deal with on a, being a real person. There was a couple of times where I remember I was in the car and I was like, it was in one of my stories, and I was like, it's like, I don't want to go into the gym. I don't want to go. And just being real, just being, totally transparent about it, showing up as a real person, because we are, and we do struggle with those things. We do go through those things. But again, it's like the difference is that you got to push past it. You just do. And when you do, it builds that confidence and it builds that respect for yourself. You did something hard. You did something that you didn't want to do. And that only creates like respect for yourself. I don't know. It's addicting.
It's exciting. I think once you kind of get into it and you see the possibilities for yourself, and it's life-changing. Really, it's cool to get to talk to you from the perspective of seeing a competitor and somebody who has competed in different realms of fitness. Just the different challenges, and obviously there's different kind of mindsets that go into each competition, into each training style. It's cool to get those different perspectives into one podcast. It's really cool. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you. It was really great to talk to you.